So one night it rained, and the bus was supposed to leave at like 3 in the morning or something. So Ron comes. He has to sleep in a hotel so that he can actually get sleep and safely drive. So Ron shows up, and we're still drunk, being idiots and walking around in the rain somewhere or whatever. And Ron goes to pull the bus out, and the bus gets stuck in the mud. Right.
Oh shit.
So now you got 3 or 4 drunk idiots, all with ideas of how we're gonna get the bus out of the. And we're like, there's like these metal barricades we're trying to shove under the tires, and we're slipping in the mud and falling and just laughing. We're all covered in mud. Like, I have another idea. Like, like. And so then, in the middle of all of that, Manzi, who's our cameraman, who is probably drunker than anybody, all of a sudden you see like a headlight fire up, right? And Manzi, like, we see his headlight coming charging towards us, and we're all like, what the fuck is that? And Manzi, or no, Ron goes, I think Manzi's in a forklift. Sure enough, he found a forklift that had keys in it, and he comes charging over, and he had this idea of like forklifting and I went running. I got sober real fast. I went over, I was like, Mans, you can't do this. He goes, no, I think it'll work. I go, even if it works, you can't do this. Like, it's not like there's like insurance and legalities and all kinds of stuff. Like we're just gonna call a tow truck, all right?
Welcome, fellow lushes. Come on in, pull up a bar stool, and enjoy some cocktails with Dimples and the Beard.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
All right, welcome, sir.
Hey, thanks, guys.
We really appreciate it. We're trying hard to get our way into talking to comedians, and I don't know if you know this, but some of you aren't easy to deal with, or aren't easy to get scheduled, I should say.
What? You're trying to work your way from talking to smoking hot chicks every episode to talking to
smoking hot dudes,
barbecue pitmaster comedians who are hard to schedule like me.
Yeah, I know.
Well, I don't know. You meant that as a reference to him, but others have been, or did you?
No.
I didn't know if you were bashing. I guess right away.
Yeah.
Look,
no. All I'm saying is we've tried.
No, I know what you mean. I know. Look, I've tried to schedule stuff with comics too. Trust me, I know what you're talking about. Our schedules are so irregular. Half of us aren't really good at organizational skills to begin with, and then you start adding like flights and one-nighters, and it's just like, yeah, we're not good at putting things on paper. Nice shirt, by the way, buddy. I like that.
We are 100%.
Way to pander right out the gate.
I was gonna say we are not against above pandering to the guests.
100%.
Woo, baby.
There we go.
Oh boy, look at that. Nice.
I'll tell you what, I love the color orange, so I was like, all right, it works for me.
Done. And also, by the way, not hard to figure out who's Dimples and who's the Beard.
Yeah, we got named by a flight attendant. We've been told we shouldn't tell this story because we're gonna order royalties if we ever get big. But we jumped on a plane and she's like, "Hey, look, here comes Dimples and the Beard." And when we went to do this thing, we were like, "All right, that's perfect."
It worked, yeah.
That's great. That sounds like cartoon characters that are going to take over the world, like Pinky and the Brain. It's like Dimples and the Beard.
Right? We could start with that every night. What are we going to do tonight, Dimples?
Oh, I love it. That's a great idea.
Well, that's the extent of my research is Dimples and the Beard. I know that we're supposed to have cocktails, so I got an IPA.
We went with the old fashions.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Yes. So that's my that's my sweet spot. My menu. I mean, look, I'll drink a lot of stuff. Don't get me wrong. But you asked me what my cocktail of choice is.
Yep.
And I would say, depending on what mood or what I'm doing, my 3 categories would be either a nice IPA, right?
Okay.
This is from Common Space, which is a brewery here in Hawthorne that I actually even do a show at once a month.
Nice.
This is my favorite one. This is a food fight. It's called. It's a hazy IPA.
Okay.
I like bourbon, so either bourbon on rocks, or if I'm out to dinner with my wife and I have someone who I know can make a nice cocktail, then old fashioned is always a very safe bet.
Mm-hmm.
And then if it's more of a wine night, then I like a Merlot, which I know a lot of dudes aren't into Merlots, especially after the movie Sideways made them a little.
Oh yeah.
Kind of look down on
cliche.
Merlots. Yes.
Exactly.
But
No,
I mean,
I like a Merlot. I'll drink a Cab. I'll drink a Malbec or a blend as well. But Merlot's my choice. But it's 5 p.m. here, and I still got to take my kid shopping, so I can't hop into the hard booze yet. But I could drink an IPA all day long and still do responsible shit.
well, we appreciate
Well,
it.
cheers.
And let's get you introduced. We're talking to Dave Williamson, stand-up comedian, pitmaster, and water polo champion.
Yeah. Oh wait, where's my ring? I think my ring's right over here somewhere. I'll show it off.
So conveniently right here.
You
But you know what? It's a great combination. So
you don't wear that thing out on the road?
No way, dude. I will lose it if I wear that thing.
that is a great combination. That is a unique combination.
It is. It is.
It's amazing. I haven't lost my wedding ring at this point in my life. It truly is a miracle. With all the hotels I don't like I'm not the kind of guy who could just leave my ring on 24/7.
Yeah.
Like I have to take it off when I swim laps. I have to take it off to sleep most of the time. Although I'm getting so fat now that I've been leaving it on to sleep. It's a pain in the ass to pull off.
Gotta leave it on by default at this point.
Yeah. But for years I had to take it off to sleep, and it's a wonder I never left it behind in a hotel room somewhere that I was on the road working a gig.
Right?
Sure.
Yeah.
So
Go ahead.
not to jump ahead, but where did you win the championship ring from for water polo?
So I actually have several. I'm the most
Oh.
decorated assistant coach who shows up half the time in the world. I coached with one of my best friends down in Florida for years and years, where I fell in love with coaching, and we won several state championships down there. So I have like 6 rings from Florida. Like 5 or 6 of them are from the girls, and 1 of them are for the boys. So the year that the girls and the boys both won a state championship in the same year, what we did for the coaches is instead of getting 2 smaller rings, we got 1 gigantic ring.
Sweet.
So that's my favorite one, and it's got the records on both sides. And then out here, I started coaching just because I really like the community I live in, but it's a little bit of a different animal coaching out in California, because water polo is so popular out here. It's like, it's like football in other parts of the country.
Oh, wow.
Like water polo is very this is like the mecca, so it's very competitive. It's very hard to win a championship, and our girls just put a run together this year, and we're peaking at the right time, and we won the Division IV CIF championship, which is like California's version of a state champion. You can't have a true state champion because there's just too many teams.
Sure. Yeah.
So they break it down by divisions and regions. So.
Well, shit. That's
Well,
awesome.
Congratulations. That's awesome.
Yeah, thanks, man. It was a lot of fun, and it was cool because I love my community so much here. It was kind of cool to have like that civic pride, and and do something for the town,
And you're in Southern California?
Yep, I'm 5 minutes from LAX airport. I live in a little town called El Segundo, and I love it. It's the best.
Perfect.
They call it Mayberry by the beach because it really does feel like a little Midwestern town. But like I said, you're wedged in between LAX, the beach, and an oil refinery. And so it's just this weird little town that people don't even know exists, but it's just here. And the show Parks and Rec was based on El Segundo.
Oh, really?
Yeah, some TV writer was living here, and he thought it was funny that every weekend El Segundo Parks and Rec would just come up with some arbitrary reason to have a like a fair. It was just like the hometown fair, and the Easter fair. It was just like every weekend it was something. So there was actually a dude who worked for Parks and Rec here named Ron Swanson for decades.
Oh,
so he's retired now. So for the TV show they set it in a small town in Indiana, but it really is where I live, El Segundo.
That's cool. I didn't know that.
well, now everyone's going to move there.
Yeah. Right. Now
No,
you just did.
people get mad that I talk about it so much on
Yes.
podcasts because they're like, "Hey, man, we're trying to keep it a secret."
Yeah. Right. Last thing you need, people coming to you.
Well, whatever I'm doing is screwing the ability for me to buy a house here because properties just get harder and harder. I need to start rumors about a lot of drive-bys going on around here and
There you go.
Exactly.
There you
fluid
go.
spills.
Yeah, where it was next to you, and it's spilling over. Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
Just
get it
go-
down to where I could buy, and then all of a sudden I'll start pumping it back up again.
Just start dropping pictures of oil refineries all over Instagram and be like, look at my view.
My backyard.
Yeah.
The oil refinery looks cool at night. It looks like an oil refinery during the day. But at night, it actually looks pretty cool because it's like a bunch of lights all lit up. So it looks like a fake Batman skyline, kind of. Like a like Gotham City or whatever.
Sure. So where did your love of water polo come from? When did you start playing?
So I didn't start playing until later years of high school, but I played every other sport for at least a year. Like I played every sport growing up. I played football, wrestling, golf, basketball, and I liked playing sports and I liked being on teams, but I never really truly understood what it was like to be passionate about a team sport until I played water polo and I go, oh, this is where it's at. But I grew up in the water. I grew up on a lake and going wakeboarding, and all my buddies had jet skis and we'd go out jet skiing, and I would go spear fishing out in the ocean. Like that was my jam. Like, and, I just grew up in the water. Like, so it was very natural to me when I found it. I go, oh, this is kind of like everything I love about football, basketball, and all those sports, but it's in the water where I'm actually fast, unlike on land.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So,
It looks like the most exhausting game you could ever play.
I mean, they always have an article every Olympics. Every Olympics, it always comes out where it says like, they rank like the most physically demanding sports, and water polo is always number one.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's insane. I mean, you're basically treading water for how long? I mean, and then guys are trying to drown you, and
yeah, that's the hard part.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of using your brain. Which I like. It's so physical. It's everything that I loved about wrestling and football, where you're just knocking the crap out of each other. But it's also very cerebral. The foul system's very different from every other sport. So you're almost like, it's kind of like flopping in basketball, but it's like legal if you make it look good enough.
Sure.
And with 90% of the game being played underwater, it comes down to that a lot. The ref can't see underwater, so it's a lot of like, if you're defending, like you better have your hands up showing the referee that you're not grabbing that guy, and you better have position before the ball comes in so that you don't get called up for something, because it's a lot of that, man. It's a chess match, but you're beating the crap out of each other at the same time.
Perfect. It sounds perfect.
So is there like a time limit for the rule that you can have a guy underwater?
Yeah, until the referee looks at you and you get caught. But I mean, there's great videos on YouTube if people want to look it up. And the women's game is possibly more brutal than the men's game. But there's underwater cameras in some of the matches where you just see like them push someone underwater, and they got their hands up showing the referee that they're not doing anything, but they're stomping that person like deeper and deeper underwater.
Jesus Christ.
We don't deal with that so much in the high school level here, but I mean, when you got Hungary playing Croatia for a gold medal match, you better believe they're doing that stuff.
Yeah, that's what they live for.
Yeah.
Nice.
Who knew?
It's crazy.
It's the best sport. It is the best sport. It is so fun.
Have you ever had a time where you like sucked in a bunch of water and had to be like, fuck, I'm out of here? Like when somebody was holding you under?
No, I mean, I've definitely had some funny stuff happen to me in games as far as like getting into it. One time I was playing against this team I think it was a club tournament, so it wasn't just colleges. It was like, but there was this team that a lot of the guys were from like the military academy, right? So some hardcore dudes. Excuse me. So my team kept, like in football, if you throw the ball over the middle and someone like goes up, like back in the day, you could just light that wide receiver up. Like,
in the good old days.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was your quarterback's fault. It wasn't even your fault. You didn't get flagged for it, It's like you shouldn't have hung out there. Well, my teammates were doing that to me. They're giving me I play like the center position.
Okay.
So it's like I post up in front of the cage. So they were passing the ball short. So then like if I don't have a true like advantage to getting the ball, then everyone else could kind of just swim over you or beat the shit out of you to get the ball from you, right? So I kept and then they just counter down the pool, and then you get beat on a fast break. So I kept getting the shit beat out of me. So I'm like, all right, this time when the guy, if it's a bad pass, when the guy jumps the pass to go make the steal, I'm going to grab his suit and just like, even if I get called for it, like I just can't keep getting countered. So sure enough, bad pass comes, guy goes to jump. I don't want to get countered. I grab his suit and pull him back. And I accidentally grabbed his suit towards the front and grabbed a handful of pubes. So when I pulled his suit, I felt his hairs all tear.
Oh,
So this big, strong, burly, like military dude, I just hear him from underwater. I hear him go, right. And so I pop my head up and he pops his head up, and I'm expecting him to like react emotionally, and I'm just waiting for the fist hit my face, and I'm gonna get into a brawl, right? Guy comes up. This is the most pimp thing ever. Guy comes up, looks me in the face calmly, looks at the side of my head where our cap numbers are, and he goes, "Number 8." And then he swims away from me. And I go, "Oh my God, what's this guy gonna do?" Like, he's gonna meticulously take me apart. And sure enough, the rest of that quarter, he kept switching, like just nice and calm. He'd be like, "I'm switching with you. I got number 8. Switching. I got number 8." He just kept getting me. And every time the ref wasn't looking, he gave me one in the ribs, or he gave me a kick to the chops or whatever. So finally, like the next time out, I look over at him and I go, "Hey, bro, I would never do that on purpose to another man. Like I apologize." And he was like, "Hey, we're even. Don't sweat it." And I go, "Yeah, we're even. You've been beating the shit out of me for half a quarter."
He's like, "That's all I wanted to do. Just beat you for a while. That's all right."
That's how men handle things, right?
Yeah.
Eye for
Well,
an eye.
they always say in all sports, it's not the guy who throws the punch that gets in trouble. It's the guy who throws the second punch reacting to it, right?
Yeah.
So that's what, he was being smart. He was like, "I'm gonna get you back little by little."
He worked it well.
Perfect.
Good for him. I mean, best he could. So when you won were you coaching when you won boys and girls that year? Did you coach both squads?
So I've coached boys and girls over the years. There's been certain years throughout my coaching career that I've run a program and been the head coach. But every championship I've ever won, I've been an assistant coach. So right now, for example, this is the best because I'm on the road so much. I would never be able to, coach, and you can only split your focus so much too, and it's not fair, especially with something like coaching kids. Like, it's not fair for them to have a coach who we've all had that guy who's not all invested, who's not all there, who's distracted, and look. They only get one senior year. They only get one junior year, so it's not fair to them, So I love it. I love being the fun uncle, come in, use my knowledge, my expertise, my my passion for the game to build relationships with the kids. But if I have an audition that day, or I have to go on the road for 2 weeks, I'm like, "Good luck, guys. See you when I get back."
So,
but you can't do that as a head coach, but you could totally do it as the assistant coach.
Right. So let's get it straight. That means that obviously stand-up comedy is the first priority.
Oh yeah, man. I mean, look, yeah, there's no reason to do stand-up comedy if you're not like all in. I mean, unless it's just a hobby and you do it for fun. But if you're doing it to make a living, or if you've committed to it for as many years as I have, you're wasting your time if you're not like putting the work in.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's no worse feeling than turning down a gig when you work this hard to try to get booked somewhere, and then they're like, "Hey, how about this weekend?" And then you're like, "Ugh, I have this other commitment,"
Yeah.
No, you have to it has to be the thing where you go, "Yes, I will reschedule everything else unless it's other comedy,"
Right. Have you ever had issues with the family life where you had plans and had to be like, "Okay, this is a big one. I can't pass this up"?
Yeah, I'm sure there's been some stuff. I've missed birthdays and anniversaries and all kinds of stuff, but we you get good at it too. I took my family with me on the road for a year and a half in an RV when I moved from Florida to LA.
Yeah.
And my kids were sorry. My kids were pretty young at the time, and it was really, it built a good foundation for us because when I had a day job and I was working a day job and I was doing comedy at night in the first few years, and my wife and I were newly married and had babies, there was some of that, where it was like you figure out like where's the balance, and maybe she'd get upset if I missed something, or I'd get upset that I had to turn down a gig or whatever. But once we made the commitment to, hey, this is going to be my livelihood, and then they came with me and actually saw what it was like and could relate and felt like they were part of it. Like it's not something I was doing despite them, It was something that we were doing together as like, look, we're Team Dave on trying to make this comedy thing work. Ever since then, man, we've been pretty solid as a family as far as them understanding that I got to do what I got to do. And, you know, every now and then you get those cool gigs where they could come with me. You know, we did that 1.5 years in the RV, and then a couple summers after that, we would do usually a West Coast trip where we go up to like Vancouver and back, and I do one-nighters. So that was kind of like an annual family vacation where they'd come on the road with me. And every now and then maybe I get like a gig where I got a really nice hotel room in like San Diego or something.
Yeah.
And they come with me for the weekend. So, you know, you try to make them part of it.
That's awesome.
So that 1.5 years, was that back in 2012 after you won
Miami's
Best Comedian in
comic?
Miami?
Yep, it was right after that. They
So-
always tell you that you know when you outgrow your like, you know, city that you're in. And it's not
Okay.
it's a little different now. Back in the day, you knew that you had to go to New York or LA at some point. Like it was a given, you know,
Yeah.
like if you wanted to make a living at this. Now it's a little different because podcasting and YouTube and the world's just a smaller place now, you know. But back then, like you knew you had to go. So I always told people, I'm like, well, that seems silly because if you feel like you're at a time, if you're gonna outgrow a place and you're obviously kicking ass there, so why would you? It would be even harder to leave, you know. But
Right.
I knew what they meant when it happened. When all of a sudden I go, oh man, I'm doing everything I can do from here, and it's still not enough. Like
Sure.
I still feel like I have more to grow and more network. And you know, you recognize it when it happens, and it's not a bad thing. You're not like saying you're better than them or too
No.
good for that area. You just realize like, oh, I'm prepared to go tackle something else, you know?
So how many years were you doing comedy before that decision-making, life-changing decision?
I feel like everyone knows this off the top of their head except for me. Everyone's always like, today is my 8th anniversary of first telling a joke on stage, and I'm like, first few years for me were a blur. Like,
Yeah.
I started doing sketch comedy up in Charlotte, North Carolina in like 2000, probably 1 and 2. I did it like I fell in love with it. I was just like, I graduated college in 2000. I chased my wife up to Charlotte, found this cool little sketch comedy place, and did a little bit of stand up there, like, you know, a little.
Yeah.
And then I moved down to Miami in probably 2003, and that's when I started doing more stand up. And so just going to open mics and signing up for contests and driving 2 hours away to do 5 minutes and that kind of stuff. And then 2008 was when I quit my day job, 2009, around there. I was working for my family's car business, and the economy shit was hitting the fan around that time.
Yeah.
So it just felt like a good opportunity. I was starting to get some offers and opportunities to go travel. So I was like, well, let me take a year and see how it goes. And then 2013, we were still making it, or 2012, we were still making it work. And I got that Best Comic in Miami, and I put my first album out. And so I go, now's the time. So we came up with that idea to go in the RV, and we put the wheels in motion, and it happened really fast.
Yeah. And how long was the RV trip supposed to last? Obviously, it ended up lasting like 1.5 years.
It was a great question. It was supposed to last 3 months.
Okay,
And,
there you go.
And people told me I was crazy for that.
Yeah.
And then I got into the San Francisco comedy competition, which was like right at the tail. I go, perfect. Right when we're getting into California, that starts. So we'll see how long it goes, and then we'll head down to LA. Well, if you make it to the finals, you're in San Fran for a month, and I made the finals. So we were in San Fran so it turned 3 months turned into 4 months. And then we got down to LA, and I had gone in the middle of the trip. I'd gotten an offer to do my first TV set, which was for a show on Nickelodeon called Nick Mom Night Out.
Yeah. Yep.
And so I flew to New York for one night to do that. And I was having beers at the bar at the rap party with the lady who's the VP of programming for the channel. And just by happenstance she's like, oh, are you sticking around in New York? And I go, no, I left my family in an RV in Vancouver, Canada. I got to fly out tomorrow. I'm headlining the club there. She's like, what? So then when we got to LA, my wife was like, we're just getting good at this. I'm not really ready to like move into an apartment or anything. She's like, could we travel a little bit more before we settle down and before the
That's
kids
awesome.
Oh, wow.
So I go, oh, all right, well, let me see. And so I hit up that lady at Nickelodeon, and I ended up selling it to her as a web series. And then I ended up, shotgunning all the road bookers, and I booked up another year of work basically. And I was sending videotapes to Nickelodeon and getting an extra paycheck from them during that time. So
Awesome.
it kind of just worked. But then we rolled into town, and it was like going to be like September or something like that. And we were ready to like have an address and sign the kids up for soccer and have neighbors,
Yeah, right.
that aren't making meth.
But how much easier was it to have her support? I mean, to do it together. Was there ever a chance where you were nervous when you talked to her, let's go on the road?
Oh, well, I was surprised that she was on board with the idea. And then once I started like looking into it, and like the bookings started coming through geographically, and I started mapping it out, and I was like, hey, we could do this. Like it's making sense. We found a renter for our house.
Yeah.
So then I was like, well, are we in or are we out? And she was like, let's do it. So then that was like, we were excited for the adventure, but I knew I was like, man, I think a week into this, I'm going to know whether this was a great idea or a terrible idea.
Right.
How old were the kids at the time?
They were young. They were like 2 and 4, maybe.
Oh, okay. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. They both celebrated 2 birthdays on the road.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it was fun. So I knew it was going to be a real seesaw one way or the other. And after the first like few days, I was like, oh, this is going to be great. This is actually really cool and fun.
That's awesome.
What a great story, to have for the rest of your life.
The coolest part about it is like I'd been dating my wife since I was 20, right? So now we've been together 24 years from when we went on our first date, But at the time, I think we were in a part in our life where it was like a real like a pivot point, because we'd been together for over 10 years in one way or another. We were just having kids. You're trying to figure out what you want to do with your life. I think it's a make or break part for a lot of marriages where they're like, all right, are we evolving together or are we evolving away from each other?
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So I think her supporting me, and then me taking her along, and us having adventures, and then just we started having conversations that we hadn't had in like a long time. Like the kids are watching a DVD in the back car, and we're on a road trip, and we're just like talking about life and stories. And hey, did I ever tell you the time about when my dad did this on a road trip? And she's like, yeah, but I don't remember. Tell it to me again. And so it was like a total reconnection of like, it felt like we were dating again, like because we were just experiencing new things together again.
That's cool. Yeah, and if you can survive a year and a half on the road together, I feel like you're good to go the rest of your life. You've made it
in an enclosed area.
Yeah, right.
And no water polo. I'm assuming during that time.
I feel like God set me up with a lot of things that were to set me up for success later in life. So, for example, like living in the RV helped transition us into living in a small house in LA, because you cannot afford a big house in LA. You know what I mean? Like you either just live in the small house until you're like a gazillionaire one day, and then maybe you can have a little bit of square footage. But so transitioning from our very nice normal house in Miami to then living in a box on wheels for a year and a half. When we moved into this house, we were like, this is kind of nice. Like, indoor plumbing. Whoa.
Right. Right.
And then the other thing too is just that when I was working a normal job, I guess you would call it, in the car business, the hours were really long, So when I was on the road and I was doing stuff for comedy, I think whereas a lot of wives or partners would have a hard time like getting used to that, she was like, nothing was worse than the hours you worked then. Like those were the worst hours, because I was gone all day, and then I come home and I was a zombie, right? Exhausted, So now, like me being gone for 2 days is like, yeah, it sucks I'm gone, but when I'm home, like,
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, that's cool. So
definitely worked. That's awesome to hear. That, things happen.
Yeah. When do you got coming out? Are you on the road now? You got stuff coming up right now?
Yeah, I leave tomorrow. To go on the Fully Loaded tour with Bert and 10 of some of the bigger name comics working today.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a blast, and I'm sure they're going to throw me up on a show or 2 or 3. But I'm actually not booked as a comic. I'm going to run the barbecue tent and the tailgate area, because the whole vibe of the festival is Bert wants to show other comics how he tours and have that kind of fun and camaraderie that we always have as our team when we tour with Bert. So our barbecue is a big part of that. So
Yeah,
he's like,
for sure.
You got to come, you got to cook, we got to Instagram it. And, we have fans all the time for years that have been like, we want to have your barbecue. And it's like COVID. We're like, nah, man, we're doing it by the bus behind a
Right.
fence, like, so now this is a time where we could be like, all right, you know what? We're going to give some barbecue away. We're going to encourage people to do their own tailgating, and we're going to throw the Frisbee around, and it's going to be a little bit more of a community event,
That's
Oh,
awesome.
how fun.
I'm stoked.
I saw Carter Cruz on Josh Potter's podcast today,
Yeah.
and she was talking about how Bert's got 4 buses for this tour. He's got one for the guys, one for the girls, one for the help me
production,
and then one just as a party bus.
Yeah, one's just like a green room, like a lounge. Yeah. It's gonna be bonkers, man.
He's taking it to a new level.
Yeah.
Oh man, he's taking so many things to new levels.
Yeah.
It's gonna be really fun, man. I'm really looking forward to it. It's Carter Cruz, for people that don't know, is a DJ, and
A
she's
beautiful DJ.
Yep. I believe she used to work in the
the adult film industry. They talked quite a bit about it this morning.
Cool.
Or today.
So she's a DJ. So she's gonna. The funny thing is, they were having a hard time finding the right fit for a DJ.
He's the perfect fit.
So I almost had to step in and DJ. They were gonna see if I could go up and DJ, but then she came through. And they were like, awesome, I was like, which is hilarious because they always make fun of my music choices when we're on the bus and drinking and listen to the Bluetooth or whatever.
Yeah.
So we got. I'm holding down the barbecue. She's got the pre-show music on.
So she's on the whole tour as well.
She's on the whole tour, yeah. And then we got David Tell and Mark Norman and Nikki Glazer and Taylor Tomlinson and all these great comics that are going to be there. And we're going to have disc golfers coming out. We got baskets set up. We're going to be throwing discs around.
Jeez.
Everyone's going to be wearing flip-flops and Hawaiian shirts and tank tops and summer vibing it, man.
Wow.
Man, Bert knows how to do it.
Talk about jealous.
We're in Wisconsin, and we were at the Green Bay show back last October.
That's one of the weekends I missed.
Okay, I was wondering because I knew he was touring like with you and Steve Fury and Shane Torres and was it Trejo? Was he touring too?
Yeah, Jesus Trejo. Yeah.
And then you guys were kind of doing every other night or
yeah.
whatever. And I was looking and I saw that like Shane and Steve had done the night before. And no offense to them, they were fantastic, wonderful, great, loved them. But I was kind of like, oh, Dave should be tonight then.
It's your turn.
Yeah.
We don't know. Normally, it's the same people on for the whole weekend. So whatever the weekend is, it's the same crew. But this past tour, I was on almost every single night. I just missed like 1 week here and 1 week there for random stuff. And
sure,
this answers the question you had earlier. I had some family visiting that one weekend, so I had to take that 1 week off because I knew I had some family coming in town that we wanted to spend time with, and then Bert FaceTimes me and he goes, "You fucked up." And I go, "Why?" He's like, "Man, you stayed home the wrong weekend." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And then he showed me all the jerseys signed by Aaron Rodgers. And
yeah.
Like, Aaron Rodgers came to the bus and hung out with us for like an hour. And I was like, "No." And then I still thought he was lying to me because, he was just trying to like bust my balls for not being there. And then he like a few minutes later, he posted the photo of him and Aaron. I was like, "Oh, crap." That would have been cool.
Tour the stadium. Yeah, they had a great time when they're here.
Yeah.
Just which is fun with Bert. He shows so much stuff.
Yeah.
It's like you're there. It's fun to watch.
Totally, man. I have friends who get mad at me. Like if we're on tour and then like we have a day that we're maybe like a little light on the Instagram stories, he's like, "Man, I woke up looking forward to, you guys were talking yesterday that you were gonna do this and that," and I'm like, "Well, we were in a river. I couldn't bring my phone with me in the river, like or whatever, like." But people really do look forward to it. I've realized that it's like a big part of people's, helping people get through their day, and it's where people find entertainment now. And
yeah,
it actually, like sometimes like I'll be worried about like certain people maybe I have a professional relationship with, right? and I'm like, are they gonna like look down on me because I'm 40 years old and I get drunk and wrestle my friends on a tour bus in the middle of the night, you know? But then I see them and they're like, dude, when you were wrestling Manzi, that was the fun. They're like, it's like, you guys have so much fun. It helps me like realize that I should have more fun in my life. And I need to
Right.
and I'm like, all right, cool, man. I'm glad that people receive it that way. Cause
Yeah,
we're just being us, you know?
people are living vicariously through you guys for sure.
Totally.
So you are the bus disc golf champion as well, aren't you?
I wish I could claim that. I would say on the regular, Bert and Pete win the most.
Okay.
I'm like the Greg Norman. I always come in right in second and third place, like right there. I'm always right in the mix, but somehow those guys always pull one out.
They're cheating. They're cheating.
Probably.
It's unbelievable how gifted athletically Bert is. It's amazing. He seems to be good at everything.
It's unreal. It truly is, man. Like when you're not with him all the time, like you think he's just like exaggerating it or cheating the video or whatever. But I'm here to tell you, he is sneaky athletic in everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's the only thing I've ever seen him not be like really, really good at was basketball. He was only marginal at basketball. And then
Better than Segura though.
yeah. And
well, at least the final outcome.
Like even like like things like we went and did these like surfboards that are like electronic surfboards, and they're pretty hard to get up on. And like, I grew up doing a lot of that kind of stuff. So I got up and it was really hard, but I was starting to get it. I was like, I'm not sure if any of these other guys are going to be able to do this. And then Bert just goes flying by. And it's like,
oh, is that one of them ones that's like up above the water?
Yeah.
And okay. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was really cool.
Yeah, those things look like to be hard to figure that out.
So what do you prefer? Like this upcoming tour where you don't have to worry about the comedy and you're just cooking, which isn't your biggest passion, but.
No, I'll always choose doing jokes. I mean, I'd love to
Sure.
jump up on every show, but going into it, like just knowing that there's, look, man, it's fun to be a part of something where you respect and can, and like I would be upset if I got booked to go, and this has happened to me before, where I've been booked to go be someone's opener in a comedy club, and then the headliner who happens to be on that weekend is like a guy who I've been friends with or have known for a long time, and I'm like, that guy should not be headlining over me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But when you get to be invited to go along and watch guys like Dave Attell and Bert and Nikki Glazer or whatever like do their thing, then and then I know I'm sure I'll get thrown up on a few shows, like I said. But even if I didn't, like, I'm not mad at just going and doing barbecue too. Like I love.
Right.
Barbecue makes me so happy for the same reason that I got into comedy and why comedy became a passion of mine early on, is because it's your success is essentially making other people happy, right?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
So,
Both do it. Both
yes.
do that.
Yeah. So comedy, like, that's the goal. The goal, like your litmus test for whether you did a good job or not, is are people happy? Barbecue is the same way, man. Barbecue is not the kind of thing where you really cook and you just cook it for yourself. You're cooking barbecue for the party. You're
Right.
cooking barbecue to be like, hey, man, I took 12 hours and put a lot of time and effort and energy and love into this, not because I wanted to eat it, because I eat it all the time, because I want to watch you eat it, and I want to watch you go, oh, man, that's great.
Yeah.
So, and it's not something that not everyone can do for themselves. Everyone could go cook a steak or cook a burger, but not everyone knows how to knock a brisket out of the park,
Yeah, there's science to it for sure.
I got no clue.
It's the perfect combination of science meets art, is a good slow cooked piece of meat. So I look forward. Look, I've loved doing it for the guys on the team for a long time now. I'm looking forward to doing it for some new comics who are going to be there and experience it and blow their minds. Like, you guys live like this. And then also the fans, like there's so many fans who are just as passionate about it as me.
Yeah.
And I interact with them on Instagram all the time. It's going to be cool to have that face-to-face interaction with them now, and they can come and give me their tips and I give them my tips, and I'm like, I can't feed everybody, I'm only going to have so much. It's just going to be kind of like a fun thing to like get the party rolling, and hopefully they're bringing their grills and grilling out in the parking lot or whatever.
Yeah.
But, for me to go like, hey, try this and hand it to them, and finally be able to do that. It's gonna.
That's
be cool.
awesome.
And
what
you know, that's what's kind of cool too. So for my merch, because every comic sells merch, I sell my own all-purpose seasoning and
Yeah.
rub. And that's been a really fun thing about that, because people can order it or buy it at my shows, and I'm going to be selling on this tour too. And then people tag me in their stuff when they're cooking. So it's like a real connection point between me and fans for me to see what they're cooking and be a part of that.
That's awesome. And the rub is called Meet Dave, isn't MEAT?
Yep.
Meet Dave.
That's the name of my podcast is Meet Dave. So then I
Yeah.
have the Meet Dave all-purpose rub and seasoning. Yep.
I did notice we have something in common when I was following your Instagram.
Yeah.
You'll periodically show your meat and play music, songs. I like to play songs and show my meat too, just not the
Different.
same.
Wah, wah, wah.
Well, do you have your own meat Speedo that a company made for you?
Wow.
Yeah. It's raw meat pattern, and it says swim meat across the back, across the ass. It's made by Turbo, thanks to my buddies at Cap 7.
That's awesome.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
God damn. So what got you started with barbecue?
I really liked eating it.
That's what it comes down to, right?
Yeah.
And it was fun when I travel around the country. I mean, when I was in college, I went to Auburn University, as you might know. There was this place in Auburn called Byron's Barbecue.
Okay.
Byron's Smokehouse is what it's called. And so I found that place and fell in love with it. And I ate there every other day probably. And then when I started traveling for comedy, I made it a point to be like, well, where's the best barbecue restaurant in town? 'Cause I like eating barbecue. So whether I was in Texas or Kansas City or North Carolina or whatever, I started getting exposed to more and more good barbecue.
Yeah.
And then one day I got mad because I came home to LA and I'm like, man, they have all this good barbecue everywhere. I go, but I can't get good barbecue here in LA. So I told my wife one day, I was just like, I'm teaching myself. She's like, all right. So I went to Home Depot that day and I bought a crappy old $100 smoker. And it was new. It wasn't old, but it was crappy.
Yeah.
And I started teaching myself and I was very bad at it. And then I just kept trying and kept trying. And it just became something I really enjoyed doing. And so I was cooking like 5 times a week and I was just giving it away to neighbors because I just wanted to practice, you know?
Yeah.
And then I just started noticing that I'd go out to the comedy clubs here in town, and whereas most of the time you'd have the same cliche conversations with people where they'd be like, are you going up tonight? Hey, where have you been on the road? And I'm like, I've been posting where I'm on the road. Obviously, you're not paying attention. But you know what they did pay attention to is they go, I saw you cook some ribs 2 weeks ago. How long does that take? And that's all people wanted to talk to about.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So then it became like an identity and a conversation point, and I started getting more and more into it. And then I was like, well, if people want to talk to me about this, I'm going to start a podcast.
Yeah.
I needed to start one at that time anyways. And it gave me an excuse when I went on the road to hit up the local barbecue store owner or pitmaster, and then me pick their brain and learn from them. And then when I started doing that, I started becoming friends with a lot of these guys in that space. And the barbecue community is awesome. So they're very encouraging and everything. So anyways, it just avalanched from there.
Yeah. And
Fast forward to now, I have like 5 smokers in my front yard in LA. I've spent thousands of dollars on them.
Are you at this point the best barbecue in El Segundo?
I would go out on that limb. Yeah, there's a lot of dads out here that post some pretty good pictures, but I definitely have the best reputation, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have any dreams of barbecue restaurant at some point? Or is it?
Sure, I've toyed with the idea, but look, it's like we were saying before. The second I open a restaurant, unless I'm just an investor or just lending my name to it, whatever, then you are no longer a full-time comic, because running a successful restaurant takes all of your time and energy.
Yeah.
Especially, yeah.
I'll tell you what I would rather do first, because I think that you could set it up retail-wise and maybe not be as hands-on. I'd love to open a butcher shop.
Oh, sure.
Butcher shops are my favorite thing. I never understood why people would go into a record shop. I was never into music that way, where I could go into a record shop and spend an hour just browsing and never even buy anything and just talk to someone about, oh, I saw fish in 19 blah 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 blah. But that's the way I am in butcher shops. Even if I'm not gonna buy anything, I go in. I like to see how they have the counter set up. I like to talk to the butcher about his his opinions on grass fed and grain finished, all that kind of stuff.
Oh, wow.
And it's just a fun place for me to connect with people who are into something that I'm into, which is healthy, well cared for meat.
Nice.
So if you had your style of cooking, what part of the country do you mimic after? When you mentioned, Kansas City and Texas and all that.
The easy answer is Texas. Texas style barbecue is the gold standard in my mind.
Okay.
Salt and pepper, very simple. Let the smoke do the flavoring. But with that said, I also, because I travel so much, like to think that I've been influenced by a lot of different regions and make it my own.
Blend a couple different. Okay.
Yeah, that's one of the fun things about cooking on the tour bus is that it's like a reality show. Like half the battle is just using what you got. Like you might be like, oh shoot, I didn't realize I was out of this kind of rub. Well, I got these rubs. Let me mix them together like a mad scientist. And I'm out of honey, but I have syrup. Maybe I'll put a little syrup on the ribs, or
Sure.
I don't have any apple cider vinegar, but I have whiskey. Maybe I'll use that to spritz. You just piece it together with what you got. Like, I don't have a grill. Peter threw my grill away, so I have to figure out a way to sear these steaks after I reverse sear them in the smoker. So then I just grab some charcoal and grab a grate off the smoker, and I build a smoker just to sear them on real quick. It's just fun being inventive on the road and working.
I was gonna say that didn't sound like a hypothetical story. That sounds like something that actually.
No, those are all things that have happened.
Damn you, Peter.
Yes. Like, yep, this happened.
Well, it's cool too, man, is we get so much so many grateful fans give us cool stuff as just like gifts on the road.
Yeah.
So it's really cool too to use that because we get really quality stuff, like really like pure organic honey that someone will bring us, and I'm like, well, I'm gonna use that in a recipe for sure. And I'll make like a honey glaze to put on like salmon or whatever that put in the smoker. Or someone gives us like, a local coffee shop brings us really fresh ground coffee. And I'm like, I'll make a Java rub to put on some beef or something, So it's fun to source really high quality, fresh, cool stuff that's got a story behind it. It's someone that we met, somewhere we just were,
Sure.
So do you have your menu planned out for the tour? Are you gonna plan out a menu, or are you just gonna wing it?
Yes, here's the menu. Are you ready? Item 1, flying by the seat of my pants.
Nice.
That's perfect. But if you had to really, really impress somebody, what's your
go ahead.
What's your big go-to?
So night 1, there's a company called Meats by Lynn's in Chicago.
Okay.
Who's one of the best. I like how you said those pre-made, ready to go. Respect. So Meats by Lynn's is one of the biggest and best distributors of dry aged meat in the country and in the world. And I've gotten to build a friendship with them, and they're really cool people with an awesome family business. And we're flying into Chicago to then drive to South Bend. And so because our first show is Thursday in South Bend. So Wednesday night, we're having a kickoff dinner for the comics and for the crew members and whatever. So they've supplied me with some badass steaks, some dry-aged tomahawks and ribeyes and whatever that I'm going to cook on Wednesday night. And that, I hope, is one of those meals that I'm out to impress and be like, this is what you have to look forward to.
Yeah.
And then, beef ribs is always a crowd pleaser. Brisket, of course, is always a crowd pleaser. I think that my best dish is pork ribs. So
Yeah.
I like doing pork ribs a lot. Probably do a good amount of pulled pork, pork belly, burnt ends.
Yeah.
Are something that people don't get very often and really love. So many things you could do in the smoker, from bacon wrapped sriracha meatloaf to jalapeno poppers, candied bacon. You can make in the morning. Smoked salmon is one of the things that gets requested the most by the guys. Could do a whole turkey, spatchcock it down, throw a turkey in the smoker. Chicken thighs, chicken wings. You can go bonkers, man.
I'm hungry. I'm hungry.
Yeah, you're talking through. I'm like, I'll take them all. They sound all delicious. But pork belly. And if I see that anywhere, I get it every time. That's one of my faves.
And any of your trips to Chicago, have you ever gone into Michael Jordan's Steakhouse and had their candied bacon appetizer?
No, I don't think I ever have. I think I went
Oh.
to Ditka's one time.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah,
don't think
they're-
I made it into Michael Jordan's.
Oh, that candied bacon is so good. That's one of the ones that you just like, oh, I'll never forget that.
I'll put it on the bucket list.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's worth going in there for that.
Mm.
Absolutely. Well, that sounds amazing. So shout out to you. What's the meat place again? Why don't you give it another shout out?
Meats by Lynn's. And then speaking of Chicago, I'm going to be back there after the Fully Loaded tour. I head straight to the Midwest, and I'm going to do a one-nighter in Fort Wayne, Indiana at Summit City Comedy Club, and then over to Chicago to headline the Chicago Improv June 30th to July 2nd. And
That's
then
awesome.
you guys were asking me earlier, that kicks off a bunch of dates I have over the summer.
Cool.
Going up to Canada to work Calgary, the Laugh Shop, and Winnipeg, Rumors Comedy Club. And while I'm in Rumors, my buddy Mel from Dark Side of the Grill is going to drive his smoker over from the backwoods where he lives up in Canada. And we're going to do a barbecue pop-up in Winnipeg. And then I got some other tour dates over the next few months where I'm going to incorporate barbecue into my show.
Nice. And you did a tour back during the pandemic where pulled the Meet Dave tour and went to barbecue restaurants and
Yeah, how
I
did you come up with that? What was the inspiration for that? Just to get out and work?
So I was super lucky that I was one of the few comics who was working in the whole world because Bert came up with the idea to go do the drive-in movie theater tour, and then I knew that was going to wrap up, and then Bert was going to go shoot his movie in Serbia, and so I wanted to hit. I was ready to hit the road and go do my hour and my tour dates, but comedy booking was very competitive because one, not every comedy club was open yet. Two, a lot of big name comics were just then themselves getting back on the road, and so they were doing clubs instead of doing theaters.
Sure.
And capacity was limited at a lot of places. There was just a lot of, so I realized like I should just create my own venues because this is going to be difficult to fill the calendar up. And then I had the idea. I go, well, my audience right now is barbecue people. I go, so what if I, basically cater to them, but also at the same time help out a lot of barbecue restaurants that have struggled through the pandemic, and give them a reason to have something to look forward to and an event, that's easy to pull off. And I started reaching out, and everywhere was into it.
I bet. Yeah. What a great combination.
Some of them had a hard time because maybe they had staffing issues, or they just the laws in their area weren't loosened up enough yet. But I booked enough to have a 2-month tour where I was just going constantly, and I bought a travel trailer and wrapped it like you said. And,
yeah.
And instead of bringing my family with me this time, I brought 2 friends of mine who just graduated film school, and they didn't have any jobs lined up yet. So they were like, we'll go with you. So they came with me, a boyfriend and girlfriend, and they filmed the whole thing and helped me run production and all that. So it ended up being a blast.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Wow.
And you filmed it all. Is that?
I filmed it all.
Where can you see it?
Well, so a couple places. One, we've been chopping up because what I did is we'd all eat barbecue at the place, right? And some places it was like a Tuesday in Greenville, South Carolina, and I have 20 people, right? Other places it was like Friday in Denver, and I had over 100 people, So it was very grassroots. I just wanted to do my hour for anyone who would come out and wanted to hang with me,
Yep.
So anyways, we'd show up, we'd eat barbecue at whatever the location was, we'd mingle, and that was kind of like I was being my own opening act, Then we'd start the show, and I would do an hour, and then I would call the pitmaster or the owner of the restaurant or whoever up at that point, and we would do a barbecue Q&A. And sometimes that would go for like longer than the show went. Like people were so into it, we started telling stories and answering questions about barbecue. And so I taped all those interviews. So we've been ripping those interviews slowly but surely and putting them out on my podcast as podcast episodes. I'm gonna start putting them up on my YouTube soon. And then I used a lot of that footage to put together a sizzle reel. I'm trying to sell a TV show.
Nice.
And then I always have it in the can if we ever want to put it together as like a documentary or like kind of a documentation of doing that tour.
Yeah. And
Fun.
if you wanna see a good title or a good description for a podcast, your latest one that came out with brisket, bacon, and bourbon. If you're not gonna listen to that, you got the three things you need right there.
Oh, that was the one with Ed from Handsome Devil Barbecue up in New York. Yeah, he's great.
Yeah, it was a good episode.
So besides putting those out as episodes and your podcast, how do you still reaching out to restaurants? Is that who you have?
So like to go do a tour like that, I think I would need a much larger budget to start with and not grassroots it.
Yeah.
Because it was pretty aggressive, especially with gas prices these days.
Yeah. Right,
Oh, geez.
right?
Yeah.
But just it was like I went from having a whole team around me when I'm touring with Bert to being like, the driver, the cook, I had to do it all. It was exhausting.
Yeah, and you still got to do the comedy part.
Exactly.
So when you're touring your own, you don't bring. Do you grill?
Yeah,
Not
well,
like
that
Bert.
trip, that trip I did. That trip, it was like,
but like your upcoming tour, are you gonna?
So basically, in the spirit of proving the concept with that tour and seeing that there's people out there that are enjoying the marriage of the two passions I have. A lot of my dates this summer, some of them are just straight up comedy shows. But even just my normal comedy shows, I'm still going to be selling my rub after the show, and I'm still going to always answer questions at the end of the show if you have any about, I usually like at the end be like, do you have any barbecue questions, Q&A? And
That's
that,
awesome.
lends to at least one or two funny answers or stories,
So-
and sometimes if there's someone local, because, in every city now I have barbecue friends. So at least once they'll come out to a show over the weekend, and then I'll ask them if they'll come up and do like a Q&A with me.
Oh, that's so cool.
So,
Nice.
but like Zanies in Nashville, they want me to come do a whole barbecue show where you have like there's a butcher shop across the street from them. So we want to do food in the parking lot, like tailgate style, before the show, and then do the comedy show, and then do like a formal Q&A after show. So that'll be more of a Meet Dave show,
Nice.
I'm gonna go to Columbus, Ohio this summer and do like a 30-minute set at the Big Green Egg Festival. But I'm also going to be there the entire day with a microphone hosting the event. So yeah, I mean, it's comedy, but it's also they just want me there for my love of barbecue and my personality.
There you go. I'm bummed. We're actually going to be in Nashville like 2 weeks after you're there. So.
Oh, actually, we just rescheduled that date. So maybe, yeah,
really?
we're pushing it back probably to October. So it might work out for you.
Oh, that could be good news. I'm going to keep my eyeballs on that.
Yes.
So if newbie who was just getting into the game came to you and asked you, what are the things that I need to buy just to get started?
Really any smoker whatsoever.
Yeah.
So yeah, look, man, everyone's snobby about you have to have an offset and learn the right way. Buy whatever smoker you think you'll actually use, right? So whether that's a digital smoker you plug into the wall, whether that's a pellet smoker, whether that's an offset, gravity fed, barrel, Big Green Egg, whatever it is, buy something that you'll actually not be intimidated to fire up and use,
Yeah.
And some people have more free time than others. So if you don't have a lot of free time, you need to come home and just fire the smoker up quickly. You probably need a pellet smoker. If you have time to tend to it a little bit, you can get a Big Green Egg, and then you have time to start the fire, let it get hot, whatever. Tend to it.
It's a process. I mean, it's a day process.
Yeah, I know. That's what I love about it. It's an investment in time.
Yeah, for sure.
It's a whole day I could sit in my hammock, and then my wife's like, "Hey, could you help me with this?" I'm like, "I'm cooking."
That's perfect. That's perfect. You got anything on right now? Is there something cooking right now?
Well, funny enough, I bought a rack of lamb from Costco a couple weeks ago, and I threw it in the freezer because we got so busy I never got to it. And then I pulled it out and thawed it, and was gonna cook it tonight because I'm like, I gotta cook this 'cause I'm leaving tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
And I opened the bag and it kind of smelled a little funky, and so it probably would have been fine, and I was really looking forward to eating it tonight, but I just ended up throwing it away because I was like, we leave at 8 a.m. tomorrow to go on tour. I don't even have diarrhea on like the first day of tour.
All right.
But if it's delicious, it might be worth
It might be worth it. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. But before we let you go, I just got to ask for like one crazy Bert tour bus story. What's the craziest antic that's happened in that thing that you can tell people about?
Man.
I mean, are you guys really up till 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning all the time? I mean, is that?
Yes.
God.
Yeah, we stay up late a lot. Man, there's some good ones. We were playing disc golf in the middle of the night one time, and we were getting cold, so we set the basket up inside the bus, and we were throwing the discs from the back of the bus to the front. And we were like, the next day we were talking about it, we're like, I mean, it was funny, and I made a great video, but we're like, what a terrible idea! Like, just a terrible idea.
Is anybody trying to sleep at the?
Yeah, we're lucky we didn't break everything. You know?
Right. I saw some of those throws. Yes.
Yeah. And then I mean, there's just been wrestling matches where like the entire bus was in on it. It's like, the best was during the pandemic. During the pandemic was the best because we really appreciated it because you were like our tour got interrupted. We went home.
Yeah.
And then we're all bummed out that our tour got canceled. And then a few months later, like, nobody had hung out with anybody in months. Like, you hadn't seen any of your friends. Like, this is before anybody was like, you were in your bubble, like. And then Bert calls up and goes, do you want to go on tour? We're going to do it totally safe. He's like, we have a responsibility to do this right because if we get COVID, that's going to ruin it for everyone else who wants to go try to tour this way because they're going to be like, yeah, you guys are being irresponsible. That's why you got COVID. So we can't go out, even if bars are open, we can't go out to bars. We can't take pictures with fans. Like we have to stay in our bubble. So that just meant it was just us every night cooking, doing what we call sneeze nice snackers, where we take all the leftovers every night when we get drunk and we try to make the craziest concoctions we can and eat like late night snacks.
That's awesome.
And then the night just evolved because we were in a field every night too. Like we were like in a field, like wherever the drive-in movie theater was. So then it just turns into us like hitting golf balls in the middle of the night in the summer or going out like with flashlights. So one night it rained and the bus was supposed to leave at like 3 a.m. or something. So Ron comes, he has to sleep in a hotel so that he can actually get sleep and sleep. So Ron shows up and we're still drunk being idiots and walking around the rain somewhere or whatever. And Ron goes to pull the bus out and the bus gets stuck in the mud. Right.
Oh shit.
So now you got 3 or 4 drunk idiots all with ideas of how we're going to get the bus out of and we're like, there's like these metal barricades we're trying to shove under the tires, and we're slipping in the mud and falling and just laughing. We're all covered in mud. Like, I have another idea. Like, and so then in the middle of all of that, Manzi, who's our cameraman, who is probably drunker than anybody, all of a sudden you see like a headlight fire up, right? And Manzi, like we see his headlight coming charging towards us, and we're all like, what the fuck is that? And Ron goes, I think Manzi's in a forklift. Sure enough, he found a forklift that had keys in it, and he comes charging over, and he had this idea of like forklifting and I went running. I got sober real fast. I went over. I was like, Mans, you can't do this. He goes, no, I think it'll work. I go, even if it works, you can't do this. Like, it's not like there's like insurance and legalities and all kinds of stuff. Like we're just gonna call a tow truck, all right? So we had to call a tow truck that night.
Oh, that's great.
Hey, A for effort.
Right? It's amazing how intelligent we get after that many beverages.
Heck yeah.
Oh man. Yeah.
Nice. All right. Well, we'll let you promote and get out of here. You gotta be on the road bright and early tomorrow. So we really appreciate you spending some time with us, man.
Yeah, thanks, man. I got to pack. And then I'm going to try to take my family to see Top Gun tonight for Father's Day.
Oh, awesome.
I saw it. I think you'll enjoy it.
That's what everyone's saying. I'm pretty pumped.
Nice. All right. Well, promote away.
Yeah, man. Best way to keep in touch with me is at Dave W Comedy on Instagram. It's my Twitter too, but I'm not very active on there. And my website with my schedule is at davewilliamsoncomedy.com. That's also the website where you could buy my all-purpose rub or any of my previous albums. I'm coming to Fort Wayne. I'm coming to Chicago. I'm coming to Calgary. I'm coming to Tampa. I'm coming to Winnipeg. I'm coming to Nashville eventually. Also, Nashville, Indiana. Oh, I'm coming to Indianapolis for a one-nighter at Helium. Really excited about that. Probably 2 or 3 other cities that I'm forgetting about. But schedule is either on my Instagram or davewilliamson.com, davewilliamsoncomedy.com. Either of those work. And Meet Dave podcast. And if you like water polo, I'm also the host of the Tony Azevedo podcast.
Oh, yeah.
With
We
my
didn't even
buddy
touch
Tony.
on that.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
didn't talk. Yeah.
He's the Michael Jordan of water polo, so you should see his candy bacon at his steakhouse. It's really good too.
Yeah.
And hey, you know what? I'll tease something.
All right.
I'll give
Tease
you a little
away.
Tease. This is a Cocktails with Dimples in the Beard exclusive. I have not put this out publicly yet.
Nice.
But my best friend Forrest Shaw, who is also a comedian from Miami, Florida, he also has a rich background as a waterman. He's very aquatically inclined. He was a marine biologist before becoming a full-time stand-up comic.
Wow.
So he and I are starting a new podcast in July, and it will be called The Mermen.
Nice.
Merman. All right.
We will look
Fantastic.
forward to that. Absolutely.
Cool.
It's
Cool.
gonna be a fun one. It's gonna be really fun.
Nice.
Different back. I hope the October date works out
Yeah, right.
for us.
I'm gonna, yeah,
Selfishly.
definitely gonna be
Yeah,
keeping
done.
our eyes on that Nashville date.
Hey, I've been trying to. One of my favorite clubs in the country is Comedy on State in Madison. There, so I've been trying to hit him up and get a date. So maybe that'll come through too, man. I'd love to come back and see them. It's the best club in the country.
But we hear that so much, and we're gonna tag them on and tell them to bring you there because
We would be there. You go there, we'll be there.
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
All right.
All right.
Hey, War Eagle guys, go Tigers!
Oh yeah, War Eagle. That's
There's a College World Series.
Are they?
Yeah.
Nice, nice. All right, well, have fun on the fully loaded tour, man, and thanks so much again for giving us some time. We appreciate it.
Dimples, Beard, I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great evening. Happy Father's Day.
Yeah, happy Father's Day.
Thank you for listening. The tavern is closed for now, but we'd love to have you back for more fun next time. Seriously, though, get your asses out of here.